Initially unveiled at Sony's E3 2016 press conference to a deafening round of applause, the announcement of a new Spider-Man game being developed by the immensely talented developers at Insomniac overshadowed the news that both Resident Evil and Kratos were both returning. Heavily rumoured for months to be a project being taken on by Sucker Punch, the pairing of the minds behind Sunset Overdrive and the most popular superhero in the world suddenly made a ton of sense. Swing forward 2 years and we're on the eve of the launch of possibly the most anticipated game of the year. The first thing that strikes you with the opening of Spider-Man, or to give the full title, Marvel's Spider-Man, is that this isn't an origin story. Much like Rocksteady's first entry in the Batman Arkham series, this throws you into a world where Spidey is a known quantity, which immediately opens up a ton of fun gameplay. Within 5 minutes of starting the game up, you're already swinging your way through the streets of New York and narrowly avoiding the heads of awestruck onlookers in an environment that looks unbelievably pretty. I suppose we should talk about the graphics. Subject of many a complaint over the past few weeks and the subject of more downgrade accusations than a cheap seats ticket for a stadium rock gig. Honestly, if anyone can play through this game and think it looks bad, I'd like to peer inside their brain and try and work out just what they were expecting. I'm genuinely scratching my head to find any flaws in the graphical presentation of this game. The sense of speed you get while whipping your body through narrow side streets, the animations on Spider-Man's movements, the way the water reflects off the let's not talk about the last bit. Puddle controversy aside, the game is added straight into how the hell did they do this folder in my PS4's library. Even on the base system, the game looks incredible, and during my entire playthrough on the PS4 Pro, I only noticed a couple of very minor frame drops during particularly intense combat scenes. I seem to be saying this more and more, but I'm continually impressed at the level of graphical fidelity that's being pushed out from the current generation of games, and whether you're playing it on a 1080p TV or a bells and whistles 4K HDR set, this game is one that will show off the very best of what Sony's box of tricks have got to offer. Narratively, there's enough on the table here to satisfy the most ardent Spidey nut without going overboard. Peter Parker's arc is fantastic, with a desire to do the right thing suitably punctuated by awkward relationship repairing scenes with Mary Jane. There's enough villains in here to shake a stick at, and unlike the rather problematic third movie adaptation, enough time's given to each one to flesh them out, enough to where beating them feels like a substantial achievement. Mr. Negative's a character that's not really been thought of much outside the hardcore fanbase, but the tale of Martin Lee's descent into evil is one that's told with the grace and delicacy that you'd normally associate with his friendly neighbourhood nemesis. It's clear that the development team have put a ton of effort into making sure that this is an authentic Spider-Man story, as you can expect, with enough cameos, subtle hints and collectibles to keep people engaged well after the final fight's over, without ever really stretching to the lengths of the Arkham games collectibles. There's so much to talk about in the story that I don't want to spoil things for anyone, but it's safe to say that just when things look like they might be starting to wrap up nicely, something, and indeed someone, comes along to spoil the party, making the third act one of the most enjoyable chaotic passages of gameplay that I think I've ever experienced. In fact, enjoyably chaotic is a phrase that could really sum up the majority of the combat in Spider-Man. Cribbing from the Arkham series, the combo-heavy use of the square button, coupled with an array of gadgets that wouldn't look out of place in an Apple store, leads to some frustration in the early going, but once you've got your head around it, it feels free-flowing enough to be a great deal of fun. Once you've worked your way through some of the upgrade tree, you'll find yourself launching enemies into the air, swinging to kick them off a building, pulling another enemy up and firing web gadgets all over the place before you know you're doing it. My only real criticism of the combat is while it does pull from the Arkham series, it rarely feels like stringing together a combo gives you much reward outside of a couple of specific challenges in certain areas, and you can miss a few punches without ending the streak. It's sometimes a bit strange, and can see Spidey flipping over and punching the air while the combo meter doesn't drop at all. The other real downside that I want to draw attention to is the existence of the instant fail stealth sequences. These are often played out with other characters as they don't have the requisite skills that our main protagonist has. They can be a bit frustrating, particularly ones later on in the game when you're running from a villain and knock over a cardboard box which alerts them to your presence. Fortunately, these are well checkpointed, and it's rare that you push too far back in the sequence. Still, it's 2018, and the inclusion of insta-fail sequences, despite them being few and far between, is an odd choice, particularly for a game that should be focused on action and traversal. That traversal is, thankfully, spectacular. Everyone wanted this game to feel like Spider-Man 2 did on the PS2, and Insomniac have absolutely nailed it. Momentum's carried through at just the right level, with the option to propel yourself forward if you're feeling a bit sluggish, as well as dive down from the highest of heights, including the Avengers Tower, to pick up speed as you do whatever a spider can throughout the streets of New York. Streets that, as the game progresses, get more and more dangerous with the addition of people that are on the hunt for that dastardly Spider-Man. I could go on for hours about so much more. how J. Jonah Jameson's frequent podcast episodes pop up had me howling in laughter, about the level of detail that's gone into a multitude of spider suits, about the delightfully absurd side quest that has you chasing after pigeons, about, well, everything really. But most importantly, about how a changing lighting and the relocation of a puddle didn't affect my enjoyment of one of the year's best games. Overall, Spider-Man is the game that a lot of people hoped it would be. An incredible traversal system that will, ironically, have been prototyped on a competitor's exclusive title. A franchise with instant mainstream appeal, and a story that, without giving anything away, set things nicely up for a sequel, without feeling lacking on its own, all combined to make Spider-Man a must-play for 2018. Thank you for joining us, guys. If you have enjoyed this review, please do drop us a like, check out the written review on the website at nextgenbase.com, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, bye-bye.